everybody, it's Falcon Napier. Welcome to the Circle of Brilliance. Today we're going to explore, revisit pride-based leadership. And this is really in follow-up to a conversation I had with Pam Weiss. And so Pam's on the call and she's going to tell us how this all came to be and what it is we're hoping to accomplish. So take it away, Pam.
Here we go. All right. So I've used over the years like bits and pieces of pride-based leadership and the conceptual foundation of a lot of the leadership development I've been doing, but I haven't actually done the whole course or pieces of the course to make it the workshop, and I want to. And so I have some prospective clients that have either not had much leadership training or that's been quite a while. There's a mix of seasoned and new leaders, team leaders, and supervisors or managers. And I know that this pride-based leadership, getting them in the right mindset and understanding their roles and responsibilities and looking at this differently than like the standard leadership development courses will make a huge difference. So part of my challenge is I've not yet cracked the code to get inside T's brain because he has all the filing cabinets that he can say, here's a great entry point to start. Like if I didn't want to do a full 3-day thing, or
Yep.
if I'm not going to use the
Yep.
levels of tension.
Yep.
And so just going through my notes, every so often I say, here's a great entry point too. Here's where you
Yep.
could do this. So I'm looking for trying to pull together some ideas about how to maybe do here's a 3.5, 4 hour session.
Okay.
And that would cover some foundational pieces and where to go in, where to go out, where it might lead to if I did a second piece, a follow-up piece, that kind of thing. Is that all
Excellent.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect. That's actually perfect. And
Okay.
so for everybody, what I want to do is let's see if I can chat this document over to you all. This is a PDF file. It's quite large. It's almost 30 megabytes. Oh, it's going. We'll see if you guys get it.
We'll see.
Got it.
All right. Well, there you go. So you have that as a PDF file if you want to kind of follow along. This is a workbook for a 2 to 3 day long training program. You could cover all of it in 2 days, but you wouldn't be able to spend as much time on certain exercises. So what makes a 2-day program a 3-day program is really how are you facilitating the exercises? Are you just doing them? Are you doing them within a tabletop debrief? Are they sharing with a whole audience? You get the idea. We all know this. A trainer can take any simple exercise and turn it into a breakout session. So, it's just true. It's just true. And so what makes it a 2-day versus a 3-day is really about depth of exercises. If you are more concerned about the content itself, all of this content can be covered in a 2-day program. Now, talking about entry points, if you had an unlimited amount of time and you had an open, receptive audience, I would, of course, always begin any program in the domain of tension management with the nature of change. And I would kind of get them thinking about this whole idea that it really isn't about people being resistant to change. It's about control. And really, it's about recognizing where people are or fear they will become out of control and how we help them restore that control, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's really important to kind of interrupt their current pattern in thinking. And now they're open to something. Well, then I would want to get into the 5 levels of tension because ultimately everything is about tension management. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to do a good job on the nature of change and you're going to do a good job just talking about 5 levels of productive tension, I do believe that half-day block is now full. And so whenever we were doing one of these more topic specific kinds of things or more the application sort of programs, I wanted to have as many different entry points as possible so that I didn't necessarily have to do the nature of change, or I didn't have to do the 5 levels of tension. Maybe I do one, but not both. But, it gave me a lot of flexibility in the kind of programs that I could put together for my clients. And so if we just start scrolling through this one, you'll see that there is a page for the nature of change. But look, it's a 1 page on the nature of change. And so maybe it's 2 pages if we do a deeper dive into tension itself. Yeah. And so that's little 2 pages. You could skip those pages and go right to page 3 if you want to. Now, notice that we did not jump into the 5 levels of tension. What we're jumping into right now, you'd have to turn your screen sideways, but basically this is walking the path. It's white, green, black, yellow, and then we do red as kind of a separate sort of a thing. But this is where the work was being done. Current situation, desired situation, obstacles, what might be at the root of that, and what are some of these solution elements. And so we would then flesh that out and say that really what they want to be working on is obstacle identification and remedy. And we could talk right about that. Now, then we could get into the 5 levels of tension. But here's what I learned. Sometimes with clients, all you have to do is introduce them to the most basic elements in the nature of change, scratch that, in the path of self-discovery. And there's an entry point. So I've done programs where I say, well, let me start by teaching you guys a method that we use anytime we want to give any sort of critical thinking to any subject, any situation, whatever you happen to be in. We call it the path of self-discovery, and it's designed to help you all find the wisdom within. So we do believe that more often than not, you guys have the best understanding of what's going on with your in your life, with your situation. You have all the details, and we believe that perhaps with a little bit of guidance, you have whatever it takes for you to be able to take care of your own situation, even if that involves seeking additional resources. It's still something we can help you through, but we got to do some critical thinking. And that critical thinking is a process we call the path of self-discovery, or the precision decisions process. And here it is: current situation, desired situation, here's the obstacle, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. All right, so you could do that. Pam, thoughts so far?
I like this, and actually, I'm really glad it's helping to see this. Let me just ask you this,
Yeah.
because another piece of the puzzle, this little bit of a sidebar, but another piece of their puzzle is about critical thinking and decision making.
Oh, yeah.
So if you wanted to spend time on this,
Yep.
you know how you always say, well, this could be a half day, or this could be a good
Easily.
2 hours.
Yeah, this
This
could
could
be
be a half day.
we've done precision decisions as a full day course.
Okay.
So but what we would do in that particular situation is we would lay out the path of self-discovery, make sure they understand all of its different, elements and why we want to move into this. We would talk about why the order matters and what happens when the order gets jumbled up. We would talk about chaos in a meeting. We'd talk about how to apply this as a structure for any kind of a meeting you're holding. So anytime you're getting together with employees or whatever, you should start by saying, and again, you're the leader. As the leader, you should be saying, this is what we're here to discuss today. Give them whatever. You'll see the first line here says, what's the topic? Here's what we're here to discuss today. Let's begin by exploring the current situation. Let's then move on to what's the desired situation. And by the way, this is a place where we could insert an even deeper tool. Remember that if you want to do a deep dive into the desired situation, you want to pull out that little matrix we use that says, here's what I hope to gain, here's what I hope to
Yes.
lose, here's what I don't want to gain, here's what I don't want to lose. So we call that the 4 aspects of control. So we gain control through any one of 4, or for any one or more of 4 different aspects. And so we could flesh this out if we want to. When we get into obstacles, we could say, well, what's the root cause? And for this particular client, we had done a little bit of a discussion on root cause analysis in another module of this overall program that they went through. But basically, it's what you guys have already learned. The 4 uns is the obstacle an obstacle of awareness? You're unaware of something. Are you unable to do it? Are you unwilling to do it? Are you unsuitable for doing it? So what are these different obstacles, and into which category do each of those obstacles fall as far as which one of the big uns does it fall into? Then we can come up with a solution for that. So this is a little worksheet. And as I showed you on the second page of it, we let them know our real work. If someone asked us, what is it that we do for a living? I will tell them, as I have countless times before, I help people to identify and eliminate the obstacles that stand between where they are and where they want to go. So again, if you do that whole path of self-discovery thing, you'd be talking about that gap, and that gap is all about these obstacles, and that's what we're here to really deal with. When you're done with that, you can ask them all to tell you about buy-in. Do they agree with this? Or do they feel like we've missed anything? What's their hunches, instincts, and intuition saying all around it? Now, if you wanted to turn it into a full day program, you could say, now we did not gather here today to talk about this decision making in some classroom academic sort of thing. You brought me here because you have practical decisions that need to be made. What are those practical decisions that you as a group of people are currently working on? And we already knew, of course, they had, because whoever it is hired us told us they've got this, and this. And so then we'd say, we're going to break into 4 groups. You guys are going to apply this process. And this afternoon, you guys are going to give a little highlight review of what it is that you've done, how you learn, what are you going to do, blah, blah, blah. So Pam, that's how you kind of basically take something like the path of self-discovery and expand it all in practical ways by looking all the different applications and making them do some of those applications.
So let me ask you, can I ask you a question? Can you
Always.
give me a, for instance, like, so, I mean, I know every company's got stuff to do and we have decisions to make. Like, give me a couple of examples of what a problem would be when you break those people out. Is it like, we're going to launch a new product? Yes or
Would
no?
be.
Like, what kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
things?
In fact, I'll give you one from a real client. This client has a physical location that is probably one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. It has panoramic views of lakes and mountains, and nothing is interrupting at all. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And their building is an architectural marvel. Well, they needed to resurface their parking lot and build a parking structure because they're starting to expand their campus, etc. That meant that during a certain period of time, there would be nowhere within walking distance of the building that anyone could actually park. And so I said, that's obviously something that you guys as the senior management team are dealing with. Let's talk about that one. So I tried to give them one that isn't so perhaps interpersonally related. You know what I mean? I don't want to get too sensitive too quickly. So I thought if I could have them exercise this with some sort of a practical, straightforward, this is the decision we need to make. This is the situation where that would work. And so I did that, and they did it all together. And then I said, okay, now if you've taken care of a practical kind of thing, let's talk about the kinds of things that you guys are dealing with at perhaps a more local level, if you will, department level, team level, whatever it is. And we'd like you guys to now come up with, and so you turn it into a brainstorming situation that each of them needs to come up with all different sorts of situations where thoughts need to be basically gathered and
Yeah.
situations explored. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
They can do that. But yeah, I will always say to you, you could get pretty heavy in this subject pretty fast. If particularly they start saying the biggest obstacle is that we've got leaders on our team that are idiots. And I've had them say that, we've got leaders on our team who are more concerned about satisfying the board than they are about delivering the goods to the clients. Well, now you got to recognize you're stepping into some very sensitive sorts of situations. But honestly, those are the situations where they really need the path of self-discovery. So yeah, so I always try to start off with something that's, a practical thing if they've got one that would work on that. By the way, they had no parking close to their building for 4.5 months. They had to
Wow.
literally bus in everybody who worked there. And as I said, it's a showcase facility on what was being built out as a showcase campus. And so they had all kinds of investors coming through and, media people and all that, and no one could park 4.5 months. They dealt with that. And so, but they put in a solution they developed this day in class. And so, good for them. We helped them out in a situation. So it's good to do something practical. Okay, so my point is that you could very well say, I'm going to start by saying to someone, we have a method that we use whenever a time for critical thinking comes into play. And then, lay out the path of self-discovery, however you would want. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, there is a companion PowerPoint presentation that goes along with this as well. I think I've obviously modified it. I'm going to give it to you guys anyway, if it'll let me chat a PowerPoint over to you. Lo and behold, you guys are getting a PowerPoint presentation, but notice the date's 2014 and this handout is 2016. So it may not cosmetically look the same, but hopefully it's still good stuff for you guys to look at. But yeah. Okay, so now you could also, again, is the screen sharing supposed to be sideways? No, Shags, I'm scrolling through a workbook and this particular page of the workbook ends up needing to be sideways. Everything else, it's vertical whenever I can, but particularly when it comes to exercises, I think sometimes the sideways configuration works out better. No worries. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could go through these different response states to let them know. Now, hopefully you also saw this as an opportunity to insert a change grid where you could say, look, if they could identify these obstacles, and now we know our task is dealing with this obstacle, let's have them fill out a change grid about each of those obstacles or about the obstacles as a list. And then you say, we can look at how people are falling. But what I like to do instead for pride-based leadership is say to them that now that you've made these decisions and you've taken the path walk and you've come up with some solutions, it's time to implement whatever those solutions may be. And let's begin that exploration with this understanding. Everyone who is on your team or is going to be in any way involved with or impacted by whatever this solution we just talked about is going to involve is going to have one of 5 responses. Those responses are called stress, power, apathy, and apathy. And which one they are in is based on perceptions they have about whatever it is you're doing or they think you're doing, depending on how well informed they've actually been. And so you're going to have people who are going to hear that X is changing. They're now going to have to park remotely and take a bus in. They still need to be on time or whatever, blah, blah, meetings, et cetera, all this kind of stuff. I'm going to predict that little tidbit of news is going to have what kind of an impact on their level of productive tension. And
Going up.
Yeah, way up, way fast, you get the whole thing. And some of them are going to be in power, stress, power, apathy, and apathy. And you could spend some time talking about each one of these. Okay, so you got all these pieces that you can plug into place, and you can talk about engagement rings if you want to, because we not only want our people to be at the right level of tension, we want them to be engaged. We want them to be out here. Now, we haven't talked about the energies, drivers, but I believe that's one of the pages in here as well. And so, we want them to get fully engaged. We need to move them out here. It's all about working with their perceptions. And you as the leader are the key voice in that. And so depending on where they are, where you need to move them to, you can do these change grid maneuvers. All right, so you got all these pieces. Right there, I believe I have gone through not less than a full day training program. And so I would not be encouraging you to try to do all of the stuff we've just gone through in any sort of a program and call that program leadership. I mean, yeah, you can be talking about all these things from a leader's perspective, but this is just laying down basic principles and insights of tension management into whatever it is that they have going on. So you with me? I don't know that you need to do any of the things we've talked about so far at all. And again, going back to how we started this conversation, I said we needed to have a lot of entry points because I never knew if they were thinking about a half-day program or a breakout session or a keynote or whatever. I needed to make sure I had multiple entry points, which gets us to the entry point that I would be recommending that you, Pam, think about doing, and that is talking about the four facets of leadership. Okay, so I'll pause there. Thoughts, comments from Pam? Anybody?
I love that, and I love this four facets too, and I do think this is a really good place to start.
It's a great place to start because now there might be a couple of things that I distinguish, but I think I make the distinction between leadership and management a bit later on. Yeah. There's an exercise, page 10. Is that leadership?
Mhm.
So going back to this, we just say, let's talk about leadership, but rather than oh, by the way, I say, what exactly is leadership? And you guys can use whatever different definition your client is already using or you have used from other programs, or maybe you use this as an interactive exercise and ask people to say to you, how do they really define leadership at this particular point in time? What does a leader actually do that makes them this leader kind of type? Now, in this particular page, we talk about, oh, by the way, there's another handout I should send over to you. Just a second. I believe it is this Word document that goes through the full outline of things. Someone can open it up and just say, I think it's a page by page thing for the old handout, in which case, you know what? I might as well give you the original Pride-Based Leadership handout. All right, if I'm overloading you guys with documents, just say so, but if it's willing to let me chat them over, you might
I
as well.
remember it being a fascinating program course.
It really is. I mean, I love it, but I think that if you can't have all the time you need to like do the whole program, then you got to figure out, well, can I just grab a piece or two and integrate it into whatever I was already planning on doing? Pam has already shared with me that this particular client has a very, let me say, close relationship with all things DISC. Is that fair to say, Pam?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, then you've probably already talked about leadership from the DISC perspective. Have you guys already done that?
No, I mean, this is the idea. She, in a previous
Yeah.
workshop, well, I should take back my yes. In a previous group where she worked, we were. So we're going to immerse in with this group too.
All
So
right.
we'll probably, but we will do disc before we get to this.
All right. And so it's interesting that if you're going to do DISC before this, that they may already realize that the majority of true leadership, or what they currently think of leadership, what those behaviors really are going to be more of the D type coming into play. The D with a dose of I kind of blended in with it would give me my salespeople for sure, my vision, my influencers. And certainly, I think if I've got my D type going and a little bit of analytical coming in, I'm really understanding the best methods, approaches to be using, formalizing things. And so I think it's pretty fair to say that when we're doing a leadership program, we're doing a program that presupposes a nice strong dose of D in each of those individuals' DISC profiles. Would that be fair to say, Pam? Or anyone
I think
else?
it is, or at least to say that it needs some D type behaviors to be most effective.
Absolutely.
They
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to
yeah.
be D, but the D behaviors.
Right. Well, which would resonate better with the change grid because we go like, I get personality typing is fun, and I've got no reason to question whether or not a given individual has a personality that is consistent and describable. But I think there's probably as many different personalities as there are humans on the planet. And so I'm more interested in looking at situations, behaviors, activities, the change grid kind of stuff. But I do think that anyone who is already invested in any kind of a personality profiling system, or whatever, whichever one it happens to be, I mean, I'm assuming it's one of the good ones. Well, we could start there. We can build on that. Because you know, I got no argument with people that they they know their own personality. But I'll tell you that when it comes to a leadership program, we are, to Pam's point, assuming some degree of D being in your makeup. Yep.
Can you fill in the blanks of those four facets of
Sure, these
leadership?
four facets are the four things that they all start with F. The four F's of leadership are leading the family, leading the future, leading the focus, and leading the facts. And so I would have the audience put in the purple boxes here, go ahead and put in future, sorry, scratch that, family, future, focus, facts. And then there's room here for they can write down what we mean by all those kinds of things. So let me go ahead and do that. By the way, I think this is in that Word document. You guys can tell me as you scroll through, because I know that's a big document, or it should be if I sent you the right one. It should have something that kind of gives you a map of doing this exercise. And so basically, what do you think we mean by leading the family? And, you know, you're my audience.
Relationships.
This is about relationships. This is about making sure you got the right people, that have got the right mindset, getting along with one another, you know, all those kind of warm and
No silos.
Exactly. No cliques are forming, better channels of communication, all that good sort of stuff. Anything that has to do with the family of business and how they came to form and where they sit and who they know and blah, blah, all that stuff is about leading the family. All right, questions about leading the family? No, not yet. Good, because my audience, I'd say that's that category. There's a whole lot of things that fall into that category, but that's the category. The second facet of leadership is leading the future. And this is where you start to talk about what the future holds for each and every one of us. What's the mission? What's the vision? What's the purpose? What impact are we going to have? So get into my heart. You know, move me, touch me, inspire me, all those kinds of things. So leading the future is all about communicating the why behind doing a great deal of the what that needs to be done right now. And so, and again, that happens. A good leader is going to do that at the organizational level, might even do it at the industry level. Talk about the future of an industry. Maybe they're talking about something more global, in which case it's no longer an industry. I don't know what's above an industry, but you know, it's something that actually has worldwide impact that makes that big of a difference. But we also have to go the other direction. Being able to lead the future also requires you to have the ability to sit down with an individual and talk to them about their personal future and how they can achieve that particular future by doing the kinds of things that ultimately need to be done, you know, here at whatever the company happens to be. So that's about leading the future, Thoughts about leading the future? Okay. Next one.
Important.
Yeah,
It's
it's
hard to lead
super
the
important.
past.
Yeah, it's super important.
It's almost impossible to lead the past.
It's very difficult to lead the past. Yeah, a little bit tough to change things. So but people try to change the meaning or the specifics of what happened all the time. It's amazing when people are accounting historical events, how much of the recounting of it is actually, I don't want to say fictionalized. I don't think they're making it up. I think they're misremembering. You know, things sneak in that really never happened. Whatever, yeah, whatever the case may be. Yep. Okay, so the next one is about leading the focus. Leading the focus is about making sure that the things that need to get done today get done. So it's about knowing what those things are. Well, actually, in all fairness, it's about recognizing the list as what it is. That list might have been handed to you, but nevertheless, this is about keeping people focused on the line items, the specific actions that need to be taken into standards. Yep.
Does accountability fall into this?
That's actually going to be more in the last one, which is leading the facts. Leading the facts are watching the numbers. And so when here you were staying focused on things, did you or did you not achieve the outcome? And so that to me are the two things. So leading the focus is about the activities, the behaviors, the routines, the whatever methods, whatever being executed. And then leading the facts, I think, starts before leading the focus begins, because like I said, that whole action plan that leading the focus requires may have been handed to you. But if it got handed to you, it got it handed to you by someone who's leading the facts, who's basically saying, do this, because this metric is not where we want it to be, or this issue is going to arise. We've got supply chain issues. We've got regulatory issues that need to be dealt with. Anything that has to do with facts and figures and bean counting and rules and regulations and all that sort of stuff. So David, I don't mind any particular behavior falling into more than one category. I don't care. I do believe there's certain parts of accountability that resonate very much with leading the focus. If nothing else, a checklist that this whole stuff I'm supposed to be focused on is actually getting done. But I would think that the what do I say, the standards around which that accountability is being held was probably something that happened inside the head of a fact person leading the facts. Yeah, but feel free to put it in either place or both places, depending on the audience that you're working with. Okay, so we lay that all out in actual, generally in less time than I just did. And then you say this to your audience. What do you think happens in an organization that puts too much emphasis, too little emphasis, or just the right amount on that particular facet? And allow them to talk their way through it. Or if time is of the essence, you can divide your audience into 4 groups and say, your group focus on leading the family, you focus on leading the future, your group do facts or focus, and your group do facts. And let them kind of brainstorm what happens. And then they can stand up and share, or whatever the case may be. But basically, we want them to have a discussion about too much emphasis, appropriate emphasis, and too little emphasis on each one of these facets. And then we say to them, now what I'd like you to do is rate your organization as you personally experience it. Okay, your organization as you personally experience it. Does the organization put too much, too little, or just the right amount of emphasis on that particular facet of leadership? And so now this gives us an opportunity for the audience members to say, this organization, in my experience, is very different than this organization in your experience. And it might be tied to certain variables that we can identify and work with. So where do I want people to be? Obviously, we'd like everyone to put appropriate emphasis on all of these facets, at all times. That's all we need. We need an appropriate amount of emphasis on these, a balanced emphasis on each of these. And so can you guys hear how this can become a very interesting discussion for people to have about what leadership needs to do? Yeah, yep. Pam?
Absolutely.
Yes, I love this. Yeah, it's
Great,
really
great.
good. Yeah.
Now, depending on the audience you have, you can also use this particular exercise to say, now you know these 4 aspects of leadership, or 4 facets of leadership. I've been hired as your executive leadership coach. Do you think that you are currently putting too much, too little, or just the right amount of emphasis on this with your direct reports? Because again, it's all about your experience of the company. So the experience of the company they're having, where do you think they should, or where do you think you are as far as your performance goes? And then if you'd wanted to turn this into a 360 in advance, you could have said, I'd like your direct reports to answer these questions as well on you. How do they, because they're the ones who are experiencing the organization. So I could use this as a 360. I could use this as a general kind of thing. So the company you want to have is a waste of time to discuss, because I'll tell you, they want to have a company that puts a balanced amount of emphasis. Because when they look at what happens in an organization that puts too much or too little on each of these things, they realize that a company who lives in these extremes is doomed. So they need to get themselves inside here. And I live in a real world. They could put a +2 or down to a -2 on each one of these things, as long as it averages out, stay in a reasonable range of things, that's fine. But you're going to go +3 to +7 or -3 to -7. We have stuff to talk about. So, so do you guys kind of understand this exercise so far?
Yep,
Yeah, yep.
it's a good one.
I think it's a great one. I mean, obviously, I put it in the program and I always do it if it's leadership, because they got to recognize this. And there's a big lesson that comes at the end of it. But what I would do to them, and you guys can't see me right now, but for a moment, envision me as that scale of justice. And on one scale of justice, I'm going to put two of these things, leading the focus and leading the facts. And the other one, I'm going to put leading the family and leading the future. Or you know what I might do first? Let me finish this. I might say to them, now here's a glimpse into it. Leading the two of these facets are true leadership, and two of these are management skills. Which two are true leadership and which two are management skills?
First two are leadership, the last two are management.
That's right. The first two are leadership and the second two are management. And I don't want to suggest that managers don't have an opportunity to do leadership, but leadership behaviors and management behaviors are not the same list of things. So I need managers to manage the focus and the facts. That's what they're managing. And I'm going to use that information to inform decisions I'm going to make and actions I'm going to take in my role as a true leader, focusing on the family, the people, and on the future, what we're trying to accomplish. The managers figure out how to best accomplish that and track the degree to which we're succeeding in doing so. So far, so good? Yeah.
Yes,
Yep,
yes.
Okay, so let me show you one more thing here. Now that they know there are two that are leadership and two that are management, I said, let me tell you about a growing trend in large corporations today. Perhaps the greatest growing trend that we notice in the time we've been in this industry is that more and more large organizations, and I'm talking about large privately held and Fortune 500 companies, are moving from being led by sales and marketing and that group to accounting and being, all that sort of stuff. So the financial department are running the entire organization. And that changes things dramatically. It changes things because what ends up happening is that the people who end up being put into leadership positions are going to have stronger skill sets in which two of these four and weaker skill sets in which other two of these four. So you guys go ahead, tell me, which two do you think are going to be, if I'm going to let finance run the company, make all the main decisions, is my organization going to thrive? Is it going to suffer? What's going to happen?
Well, they're being
no, they're going to
focused
be
to me.
too focused on the focus and the facts. They're not worried about the family and the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Now, a particular client I was working with had that happen. This is a company that for its first many generations was run by sales. When an organization is run by sales know I've got to listen to my customers so I can give them what they want. And once I create what they want, we're going to deliver it to them and they're going to be happy with it. So they keep buying more stuff from us. And what is it that they're going to need in the future? What is that we could do from it? So can you guys hear a very different mindset than well, the only thing we're concerned about is the bottom line dollar. And so let's see if we can cut expenses. Let's see if we can increase the price range. Let's see if we can whatever. You get the idea?
Mhm.
Yep.
Very, very different organization. Well, in an organization who is moved into one that's being finance led instead of sales led, the finance lead is going to say, wow, we're not meeting our numbers. And so what we need to do is put more emphasis on two of these and less emphasis on two of the others to free up time for it to be done. So what can be sacrificed and what needs to be the emphasis?
Well, they're going to sacrifice family and future and rely on focus and facts.
Right. And what they're going to find out is that that doesn't work. Performance and
Right.
productivity are going to suffer. And so what are they going to do now? they're going to put even more emphasis
More
Yeah.
focus, yeah.
on
Yeah.
focusing facts and even less emphasis on family and future. In which
And I
case,
could see layoffs.
layoffs are going to happen because you're just a number. You're just a number. And if we can see that the customers will stay with us, if we stop doing A, B, and C, then we're going to stop doing A, B, and C. And sales team is going like, if you stop doing A, B, and C, then we're going to be a commodity. And we're going to have to start fighting as a commodity. But does finance listen to that kind of stuff? No. So it's not where they're at because they don't think about the family and the future. In the family, leading the family, keep in mind that the family includes your customers. Your family includes your vendors. So because you all need each other in order to be that best situation you can possibly be. And so the leader really wants to be able to get along and everyone to get along with each other, with our suppliers, with our customers, with the media, with the legal side of things. We just want everyone to get along, okay? And stay focused on the future. That's all we really want. Get that? Yep. And so we're able to demonstrate this, and we describe it as the death of true leadership. So, because that's what ends up happening. People become so focused on the right two columns that they ignore the left two columns. And we end up thinking and labeling what we're doing as leadership. But the truth is the leadership activities have died. Hang on just 1 second. Linda, could you come here for a moment? Yeah. So can you guys kind of see, if you could call Tom and Anja back? Thank you. You can see that if we just did this one exercise, what do you think happens in your audience? What do you think happens to the discussions they can have then and the deeper discussions you can have about changes to make in the way the company operates?
Well, I would think that it would be a good discussion for the leadership and management to get together and talk about how they can contribute to each other's objectives.
That's right. That's right. Because they got to get the family to, if you want to fix the problems that are happening with focus and facts, we need to revisit family and future. Are my people getting together? Are they so disgruntled? Because, by the way, one of the things finance did was cut all sales incentives. So the trips are gone, and the fun parties are gone, and sales contests are gone. All that's gone. So who wants to do the work? And who cares? Because finance's future is about satisfying the shareholders. Where's my future in the whole thing? Why should I do this? Am I just a number? You guys get the idea? The less I spend on this side of things, the tougher the right side of things is going to get.
Yep.
Yep. And so Pam, I think you could actually do a breakout session on nothing but this one page.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it really is. So you decide how much time you want to give this. By the way, I've also done this as a needs assessment just with the executives. And so if I'm just doing this as a sales discussion, this is something I could bring out, but I want to make sure I'm not in front of a bunch of bean counter decision makers because they don't want to meet anyway. I'm a line item. So, they just as soon not have training man.
Yeah, I have a hit on what you just shared too, and it goes to the disc that I find many of these finance people are C's, and when you focus on family, building psychological safety and community, that would often be the S, those more relationship oriented.
Yes.
And when these C's take over, they may drive away the future, the innovation, and also that family, and then I think we get the trouble that many of these people then get driven out of the organization even.
That's right. That's right. I can tell you, Kmart did not go out of business because sales and marketing didn't know what they were doing. That was one of the biggest companies on earth. Someone stopped sales and marketing from watching what was happening and responding to what was happening. And instead got too bogged down with perhaps the threat of the competition or online stuff or whatever the case may be, or the investment they would have to make, et cetera. But the death of Kmart to me is a wonderful lesson, a cautionary tale in people not being early adopters of technology. They were late to the game, if they even arrived at the game. So
what about Blockbuster?
Blockbuster, same thing. Now for them, and like you go further back to travel agents. These industries died because they ended up one way or another not being viewed as being convenient. Convenience is what they sold ultimately to get whatever it is that you want. You can one stop, you can get a dozen movies and you know not go to the theater and save money and blah blah blah. But they didn't pay attention to how technology changed, because why couldn't Blockbuster right now be Netflix? You know, so
Yep.
different business model, et cetera. Didn't think about
There's-
dispersion. Yeah. And by
There's
the
another
way,
one.
oh,
See
sorry.
if
Go ahead. Who's that, Shags?
I may, there's another one to consider, and that's Texas Instruments.
There you go. Right.
They went from an engineering organization. The engineers advanced from their technical field and acquired new skills. They developed, they evolved,
Yep.
but then they switched to a financially run organization and ruined it.
Yeah. And usually the death of an organization is that it goes public. So because it makes sense, they're obligated to their shareholders in keeping that price high. And that's a very different place to build a company from. And obviously they do such great things with it. Still, I mean, these companies still grow or whatever, but they've lost their heart. They've lost their, you know, their real place in society and legend and all that sort of stuff.
Hey, quick question. Wouldn't you say when private equity takes over, it even exacerbates that more?
Oh yeah, yeah, because they're talk about laser focused about one and only one thing, and unfortunately, that is not where this is really going to do its best. So yeah, yeah. But you know, we're assuming whoever hires Pam to do this program is wants to be better at leadership and wants a better better outcome, better performance, better productivity.
Can only hope.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the people tend to like to do that, but I would tell you that if they're a publicly traded company, this is tough to do. Anyway, you could do that part up there. That's a good one. Here's another one that I think is a fun one to do, maybe as a pre-training exercise. We want them to come to the class with this one done. All we want them to do is to describe the best and worst leaders they've ever experienced. And we want them to just write down some keywords, some key actions. What did that worst leader do? What kind of impact did they have on you? You know, how about the best one? And so we want them to start adding some characteristics so we can ultimately say to them, none of these characteristics on the best side of things fall into the category of leading the focus or leading the facts. So they're going to, they were a great leader because of who I became when I was in the leader's presence, you know? They really cared about me. They really got what our mission was all about. Yeah. Yep. So it's a fun one to do. Questions about this one?
Replace leaders with teachers or doctors or anything.
Anything you want at all, because technically we go back to the definitions of leadership, and there are several that are in that PowerPoint stack I sent you guys. One of the ones that I think of as leadership is any attempt that's made to directly influence the attitudes, beliefs, or behavior of another person. And so sales is inherently a form of leadership. Any kind of persuasive job is inherently a leadership position. Or how about this? It has the opportunity to be a leadership position, but you could also do those same behaviors or those same outcomes in a highly transactional way, which is what the right side of the facets would actually show. Okay, then we go, is that leadership? And then we'll start talking about different kinds of skills that are attributed to leadership, but really aren't something that makes you the best leader. And people will talk about the things that are attributed to leadership. And I gave a study to one of our clients. They did an internal study. Actually, it was a study of their clients, but nevertheless, it was internally designed and conducted. They asked corporate executives, C-suite, had to be a member of the C-suite. What do they think the number one skill is that is necessary for the future? And their answer came back resoundingly. The skill was creativity. And I wanted to say, creativity isn't a skill. You know, I mean, I can give people exercises to help their creativity develop, but I don't think that we would say creativity is a specific skill that someone is deploying, like getting the lid off of a jar is a skill set. You know what I mean? There's skill, there's technique involved in doing whatever it happens to be. And so we ultimately want this to boil down to what skills are unique to leadership? What are these are really all about? Um, and we can even use this exercise as a framework for discussion with a client, even a prospect, even before they become a client. There are a lot of things that are attributed to leadership. And by the way, we need to look no further than the academic system to see that. If I go to if I go to college catalogs and look at courses that are related to leadership and start reading the course descriptions, don't be surprised if the vast majority of what you read really are leadership skills. They're very important, make no mistake about it. But are they really leadership? Where when you say to people that are putting together leadership institutes at different universities, it's like, so are the following 5 skills incorporated into that training program? And don't be surprised if you find out they're not. So we get to this. We then can go from there and say, well, let's break down the leadership skills into the 5 that we've identified. And this is our leadership assessment, page 11. Leaders have the ability to formulate and articulate a compelling vision. To formulate and articulate a compelling vision. So is this skill, do you guys understand this skill is about public speaking and interpersonal interactions? Yeah.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that's what this is. I got to be able to get into your head. And then I need to awaken and sustain desire in the hearts of other people. So again, this is me being a little bit of an analytical, an expressive driver, inspiring you and motivating you and making it very real for you. I need to create and maintain a feeling of pride in others. It's because I believe in you so much. It's because we know we are the right team of people that are at the right place at the right time to make this all happen. And then number 4, focus others on a clearly defined destination. I do not get bogged down with the details of how to get to that destination because that's my focus in facts, people, to do, because management is vitally important. Don't think for 1 minute that leadership can replace management, but management can absolutely not replace leadership. And again, side story, everybody is really both of these. I've never met anyone who is a 100% leader. Even if it's behind the scenes, they still have to do administrative tasks and things like that. So a leader is a part of who we are. A trainer is a part of who we are. A counselor is a part of who we are. We have lots of different parts. We're all, what's I want to say, schizophrenic in our own kinds of ways. We all have split personalities if we need to. But anyway, focus others on a clearly defined destination. I got to know that this entire group of people knows exactly where we're trying to go and what it looks like and sounds like and smells like and tastes like when we get there. And so, and I got to get them to see that destination and see the impact that it's going to have. And the destination is really what ultimately is everything else has to be geared towards. And then skill 5, leaders have a unique ability to identify and develop more true leaders. Anybody can become a better leader. We can give people with no natural leadership skills some basic leadership skills, but if our expectation is that we're going to turn them into a leader, no. A leader is more than anything else discovered and developed than they are built. And so
What goes in the boxes?
the boxes over here are, let's apply this to yourself. I want you to give yourself any kind of a grade. You can use whatever system that you want. What score would you give yourself right now as far as your current level of ability to articulate or to formulate and articulate a compelling vision? And we can use any score we want. I just wanted to give, is it a double plus, a triple plus, a single plus, a neutral sign, a minus? I like to use that style because we're going to use it later on in the thing. And then I said, now, what about your direct leader? Let's do the same thing. What grade you're going to give them for each of these 5? And then your culture in general. And it's interesting when you find out that all three of these up here, people will give themselves minus signs for being able to articulate a compelling vision. And they'll tell you, there's nothing I dread more than listening to the president give a presentation. So, he's not good in front of an audience. He's not very personable. It's not very interesting. He doesn't spend time putting the message together. Okay, and so we have them do all that. This is a tool. It's a self-assessment, little awareness thing, and then total or overall. We could say, if we wanted to here, if we want to do scores, you could say you can give yourself up to 10 points. 10 points is that you're absolutely perfect at doing all this. Anything less than that is room to grow. And so how would you give yourself a letter score, or rather a numerical score if you want to? Then they can add it up if you actually want to have them total it. But they get the idea with pluses and minuses as well, or any other method you really want. All right, questions about this?
Just a thought on it, T, and that is again, I always look at these things in terms of how can it be flexed? How can it be used in other ways?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and saying, okay, if I'm looking at a job change, where am I at? Where do
Yeah.
I see a leader in a company that I may be going to or I may interview with, and what's that culture?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely right. Because I need to know that instead of putting us over here, I need to even evaluate what was the interview like. Did the interviewer formulate and articulate a compelling vision? Did they desire his heart's, did they do these things on what it was for me? If they didn't, then I would wonder if I'm likely to get this kind of leadership support if I move into the company more formally. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
It also gives you great input for your response to your interview.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, T,
Absolutely. Yes.
before you go from this, do you ever get any either questions or maybe pushback or confusion about, well, that sounds good for those higher level leaders, but what about us as, I'm a team leader or
I
I'm
would
a
say to
line
them,
supervisor?
let me ask you guys to put yourself in the position of being a parent to your children. So, do you believe that as a parent, you formulate and articulate a compelling vision for your child, regardless of what age they are, obviously being age appropriate, but are you formulating and articulating a compelling vision for your child's future? What do you think parents are supposed
No.
to do? Yeah, should they?
No.
What's that?
Yes.
Yeah. Awaken and sustain desire in their kids' hearts.
Try.
Yeah,
Yeah. Create and maintain a feeling of pride in their children.
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah. Focus them on a clearly defined destination. We're giving you three.
It's a discussion.
You go to college, you get a job, and you don't get yourself in any trouble between now and then. Okay? Yeah. All right. And identify and develop more true leaders is really just about you noticing patterns inside your own household or your own circle of children that and from other couples and activities you're going to, which kids are really showing themselves to really be leaders in their group. And so my point is that this is something that we naturally do in our role as parents, because parenting is leading. Can we find other layers that we apply it at? Like, if you're just trying to organize something with your friends, do you start off by articulating a compelling vision? Yeah, Pam?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yep, I like that.
You can deploy it a lot of things. Again, leadership is such a large term. It's interesting. It's simultaneously large and tiny. Leadership as an opportunity is vast. Leadership from a practical, deliverable skill set and activity list, etc., you just don't see it very frequently. And I think it's because the people that we need to step up into the leadership role are too far upgrid, more often than not, about things that are really more in their management realm of responsibilities than the leadership realm. And they don't recognize that leadership is the only way to correct this. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Pam, are you seeing the notes down for everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah,
All right,
well,
so
thank you.
we're going to finish up here. We do have a lot more to cover. We're on page 12 out of 25. So we have a lot more to cover. If you're open to it, then when I get back from the cruise, we can pick up where we left off. You guys okay with that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
thank
Pam,
you
if
so
you want to
much.
look, what's that?
Yeah,
I'll
enjoy
tell
the
you
cruise.
that. Thank you. Next week, okay, Thursday would be the 14th. The following one would be the 21st. I could also do it on the 19th. And so Pam, I'm going to leave it to you to decide if either of those dates work for you, and if so, which one's better.
21st is,
The 21st is better. Okay, so we'll pick up where we left off on our regular scheduled circle call on the 21st, and I'll send you guys all a reminder.
Thank you so much. Have fun, T.
All right,
Enjoy.
thanks. Okay,
Enjoy.
thanks,
Yes.
Have a
everybody.
good time, T. Have a
Thanks.
good
Bye for
time, Linda.
now. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.